Hello, buongiorno, good morning. Um, there it's a few minutes before 11 a.m. Don't worry. Uh, Today we are going to talk about learning, especially learning about how to learn. So that's called meta learning. It means most of the time when you have the word meta before another word, that means it's the way things are done. So if we talk about meta learning, for example, as we are going to talk about in a few minutes, we are talking about learning, but not just learning anything, but mostly about how we learn the things we learn. That would be learning how to learn. So it's rather interesting because when you want to learn something, for example, you may want to learn a new language, you may want to learn how to dance, and that kind of thing. There are some things you can learn physically, I mean with your body moving and doing things, and there are some other things that are learned intellectually, that you have to understand certain concepts and you have to know how to combine the things you know into a new learning. And so I will make a distinction, as always, at first about that. So first of all, I said learning how to learn. And you can learn, for example, in the case you want to learn something, you want to know first why or what for are you learning this activity, this new skill, this thing that you want to learn. Maybe you just want to because it's a hobby, or maybe you want to learn to solve a specific problem. For example, I was thinking about if I wanted to learn, that's an intellectual kind of learning, thermodynamics, for example, physics, to solve a specific problem I have in a thing I'm inventing at home, or a machine I'm inventing at home. That's very specific. I want to learn just to be able to solve a bigger problem. And in that case, as I said, it's an intellectual kind of learning. I don't know if some author calls that way. That's the way I used to interpret this kind of learning. And you can do it by hiring an expert or a teacher or a mentor for you to be able to solve with them more easily, and to understand how is the actual problem and how to solve it, for them to assist you in the meanings that you don't know, the concepts you don't know, or how to solve this problem. That could be a thing. Or another one could be, for example, if you want to learn, I don't know, how to teach mathematics to people. You have to also understand if, okay, I am going to be a teacher, I have to have certain knowledge of mathematics, for example, or languages, or whatever it is you want to teach others. Again, intellectually, let's call it, concepts and things to talk. And in that case, you should also know, okay, I am going to address my knowledge or to teach others. For example, there will be certain public and certain audience you will be addressing to. So it will be different if you have to teach children or if you had to teach adults. And also that's very important to know when you are starting to learn. Another thing that may happen is, for example, on the other hand, when you want to learn something physically, I mean, you want to learn to dance, you can just do it because you like it, for a hobby. And you may say, okay, it's just for me to do some dance moves at home, and that would be very different if you want to have a company of dancers, for example, for ballet. So you would have to have a mentor and a professor, a teacher that can help you get the best of yourself to do the best movements and to do the things correctly in a certain way for you to have your company and also teach your colleagues or your the other dancers. So those are distinctions of the things I wanted to tell. Uh, Remember, you have to have an objective or a goal in mind, and then know who is the audience you are addressing to, or maybe just for you. So, for example, I'll give you an example. I'm starting to learn how to sing. I thought I would never learn uh, sing how to sing a single song in my life. I thought it was just reserved for me at the shower, and I think I'm kind of barking mostly, and not exactly singing. But it's been a month and a half that I have a professor, and he's a great professor, and he's also telling me a lot of things about learning, about physical learning, and I thought singing was kind of a physical thing, but I am discovering right now that it's also about intellectual learning. And yes, of course, it's mostly physical because your body is the instrument. But there are very interesting things I'm learning also about when I'm learning. So that's the meta learning, when I'm learning how to sing. And in this particular case, I thought I had some beliefs, as you may, for example, if you want to learn English, you may have the belief, uh, or Spanish or Italian or whatever language you want to learn. You may think, well, I'll never be able to do it. I will never be able to do it, and that's something you should erase from your mind and say, okay, I'll give it a try. If you just give it a try, you will learn. Maybe you will learn that you don't like the language, and you just quit and say, okay, I don't like it, I don't want to learn it, and that's okay too. But sometimes what also happens is that you fall in love with the thing you are learning, and you also find new ways for you to make it easier to learn. Um, you don't have to just rely on your teacher to dump all the information into your brain. You are the responsible one for learning, so help your teacher for him to be a better help for yourself. There are some other things that maybe you don't need a teacher to learn. For example, I don't know if you are a musician. I know many people that have learned just to play the guitar or play the piano on their own. I don't know if they have a talent or they're just persistent enough and consistent on their learnings. But I found, for example, that knowing yourself is one of the best things you can do for almost any activity, and especially for learning. If you know that you have a tendency for you to be more easily to be a better learner at physical things or at intellectual things, that's a thing that may be of great input for your learning. For example, I'll give you an example. In my case, I know that intellectual kind of learning is more easy for me. It's easier, sorry. So I grab a book or different books and I read and I learn and I get the concepts together, and for me it's kind of very easy to do. But physical things are kind of difficult for me, so most of the time I prefer to have a mentor and I see that the growth or the learning is exponential uh, compared to if I wanted to learn on my own. For example, when I started dancing, I was a complete puppet. I could not move my arms or my torso, and it was very difficult for me. So if I hadn't had a teacher, it would have been almost impossible. Of course, I could have learned, but it would have taken me much longer than it did. So the same applies to singing. So if you know yourself, you can actually understand how is that your mind works, and how is that it's more easy for you to learn, and how can you combine the way you learn or your own experience to learn the activity you want to learn. So if you don't know yourself, just try one thing or another. Maybe you can say, okay, I will try to learn on my own. And if you get so frustrated, you may want to hire a teacher or a professor to help you, or a mentor. And until you get to know what is your preferred learning, I wouldn't say system or way of learning, because in the end, we are all human beings and our neurons work the same way for you and for me, but we have some preferred systems for learning. So I would say just preferred system. And another thing I have uh, been listening and reading about is accelerated learning, because at first as I'm kind of as I said, an intellectual learner, I wanted to be faster and to do things very quickly and in a more efficient way. That was my objective some years ago. So I started to learn how to read more rapidly, um, how to, I don't know, memorize things, how to make calculus more easily and more rapidly, and that kind of thing. And then I stopped one day and I said, why? Why? What am I doing this for? And why is it that I want to learn faster? I didn't have an objective. So I had to think about it and say and be honest to myself and say, okay, this is nonsense. In my case, I know there are some people that want to learn faster and want to read faster. I know people who read fast and actually doesn't see the benefit of it, because you are once again dumping things on your head, and your brain is kind of overwhelmed with all the things you know. I mean, it can handle it, but you are just learning and learning and learning and learning all the time, and you don't create anything with that. You're just receiving or receiving or receiving information, and if you don't do anything with it, it's just useless. So that's my opinion, of course. You may not be, you may not think the same, and that's fine too. And we could have a talk. That would be really interesting. Because at first, as I said, I wanted to be the fastest learner, and I wanted to be I don't know, read faster and know everything about everything. And well, I may need another life to be able to learn all the things I would want to. So I just had to stop and really think about what were my goals regarding education and learning and that kind of thing. And maybe it might be helpful for you too, if you want, of course. I know some people, for example, that are faster or accelerated readers. I don't know if that's the term. And they read so many words. I don't know what's. I know a girl that she's a fast reader, and when I questioned her about that, I told her um, what was the benefit she had received from this skill, let's say, that she had learned. And she told me that she didn't actually see a difference. Yes, she is a fast learner, a fast reader, sorry, but it doesn't have a real effect on her daily life. So that's a thing to consider, maybe. And what else? Because I know there are so many also authors that say that you have to be the faster reader or the faster learner. And I was watching the other day also a program. I was on a travel, and when I travel, I watch TV. Otherwise, I don't have a TV at home. And I was watching to Sam. He's an Argentinian magician that's now working with a team, and they are traveling around the world, finding people that have special abilities, like the X-Men or superheroes kind of thing. And he was interviewing people. For example, there was this guy called Jaime, and Jaime is the calculator man, they called him, because he can uh, do complex calculations and get the results, very exact results. And I remember I had watched Jaime several years ago when I was a child, and he was round. He was calculating factorials, numbers, and that kind of thing, making really complex calculation of hundreds of numbers and remembering a lot of numbers also. And of course, it's an amazing, amazing memory he has, and also an amazing brain that can calculate those kind of things. But if you ask yourself, okay, if I had this ability, what would this ability mean for me? How would I use it? So I said to myself, I used to admire these people, and I still do, of course. And I think they are great and they have a special ability or talent. But I don't see myself using this ability. So, uh, as I say, staying and stopping to think the why is that you want to do something is really important, especially because you have only one life and you have to allocate the time into doing the things you really love, or you really appreciate for yourself, and not just because it's the tendency to do everything faster and do it better and do it more efficiently and that kind of thing. And there are some things that you may also have to enjoy. They are just for enjoying, like hobbies. For example, as I said, dancing for me and singing for me is just a hobby. I don't want to be a professional. Maybe I don't know. Someday maybe I could be a professional, but it would be just something that goes step by step building itself, because it's not in my interest to do so. And I just want to enjoy and learn new things. So beware of your goal first. Be aware. I mean, um, understand what is it that you want to accomplish in your life or with the learnings you want, and then understand how is that your mind or your body and your mind, I mean your whole self, learns, and understand how you perform as a person. How are your strengths? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where you need maybe to hire a mentor for you to help you, or where you can do it on your own. And that's it. It's easy, easy life. This is. You just have to figure out what works best for yourself. Of course, there are a lot of things you can learn, and you can learn how to learn. I mean, you can watch uh, some people that have already learned in a certain way. For example, one of the fastest learners or known nowadays is Jim Quick, um, and another one is Tim Ferriss. But again, what I found out that they are their methods of learning. Yes, you can start with their methods, but then you have to figure out for yourself what works best. So if you have no idea at all, it's okay to start with something known, for even it's for another person. But then you have to think on your own. That's the main activity you should be doing every day, or you could be doing. I don't mean you should. It's just an option, but it's better if you start thinking for yourself on what works best for you. I try to teach that to every person I encounter or I deliver trainings to. You have to figure out how the methods serve you to learn, and not to apply the methods just because it is what it's supposed to be, and uh, you have to sorry, have to figure out for yourself. So I hope this little chat has been useful for you. If you like it, share it with your friends, and also like it. You can share home wherever you want. If you have some concerns, or there are some topics you would like for me to address, or you want to have a conversation with me, we can do that. Of course, just send me an email or a chat message, and we can talk. And I'll be really happy to know what are your thoughts on this, on learning. So see you next Thursday, and have a beautiful week. Bye bye.